Okay, I believe we can begin. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Xenit webinar. My name is Klaus Shipley, and I will be your host for today's session. Our topic today is knowledge management tips to improve employee experience in 2021. Before we jump into the discussion, there are just some housekeeping points that I need to share. This webinar will be in the form of a presentation and a demo. At the end of the webinar, we will answer questions from the audience, of course, and also questions from the chat. So please feel free to post your questions during the presentation. As a reminder, we will make the presentation resources available after the webinar is completed, so don't forget to check those out. During our webinar today, we will have three speakers. First, we have Ronny Timmermans. He's the CEO here at Xenit. He will introduce today's agenda and also explain how Fusion's technology can be used in any organization with multiple repositories. The second speaker will be Lesley Heizman. Lesley will discuss how the nature of knowledge work has changed over the past year and how Fusion is taking these challenges head on. The third speaker will be Ranek Belpar, who will give us a live demo of the enterprise search platform. So I now present to you Ronny Timmermans.
Great. Thank you very much, Klaus. Welcome everybody to this webinar. We are all looking forward to it also because we have Lesley Heizman as our guest, knowledge manager at Lucidworks, very relevant to the Fusion technology. I'm going to have a quick overview of the agenda. Lesley is going to depict the landscape of knowledge management and digital workspace, how it is, what is the state of the art today. Before that, I will quickly introduce Xenit and why we are so enthusiastic about enterprise search and why we think it's extremely important and it's part of our DNA. So then Lesley describes the landscape of knowledge management. She will discuss three challenges. One, siloing effects. Data, experts, knowledge and expertise are put in silos or disparate sources, to say it less urgently. Who are the experts? How do I know them? How can I protect my data? But also, how can I disclose the data that somebody is entitled to see? Secondly, people need help. That's the second challenge. How can I find information? Giving people access to all those information sources is really important. It makes them feel empowered. They're retained. You have more talent on board and they just use corporate assets much better. Thirdly, this is the hot topic, not just of the year, I think of the decade. Artificial intelligence and machine learning will change your workplace. They will hopefully leverage our skills, empower us, but it is a challenge. So how can you tackle that? How can you use that to empower your teams and increase the effectiveness of your enterprise search solution? After that, we will have a demo by Ranek Belpere, who is a software engineer at Xenit, showing you the potential of Fusion. Fusion being the product of Lucidworks and built on top of open source Solar, the open source that is so close to our heart, and then in a bigger role than integrated with Alfresco. At the end, we will have questions and answers by you. So about Xenit, I don't want to take too much time here on our introduction, and maybe some people know us already for a long time, but we are an open source integrator for Alfresco solutions by history and by DNA. But we have evolved into a company, and that's where our focus will be in the next years, is that putting search more centrally in the landscape of our customers. And of course, we have been doing search since the first days of Alfresco. When you install an enterprise content management system and a document management system, without search, it makes no sense. So we are confronted with getting search right, getting search very scalable. That's our DNA, and we will continue to invest into it. It will become more central. Xenit and Solar. search engine behind Alfresco, that's Solar, already for many years. It started with Lucene and then it became Solar. It has advanced full text capabilities. It's optimized for high volume traffic. You can scale it if you know how to do. Near real-time indexing, all these things are possible. We don't always take full advantage of it in Alfresco because Solar goes fast. It's at version 8.8 today, but it can do a lot and it has a lot of future. And it is open source again. That's why we love it. We believe very much in the open source thought, as Alfresco is open source, Solar is as well. So this is now for me the last slide before I pass the word to Lesley. What's happening at how we see information evolving is that where we had an attempt to centralize information and documents in the past, to say, oh, you just put an ECM, an enterprise content management system in place like Alfresco, put all the documents in it, and you have one search for your company. I think today we know that that is not what's going to happen. Alfresco has its place in a corporate landscape as a system of record, but on the left-hand side, you see SharePoint, OneDrive, and Windows, etc., collaborative environments. Microsoft and Google have fantastic offers, and these have their place, and they work together with Alfresco, and they work together with more systems, transactional systems like Salesforce, SAP, etc. So what I'm saying is that for us as a company, but I think as well in the industry, search is shifting into a central place. It's a Copernicus revolution. Search is becoming much more the center of our universe than it was before, because silos will exist. Information systems will be there. There will be different systems. You need to connect them by search. And that's why we as a company are so, I think, enthusiastic about everything that is happening with fusion and search technology. Having said that, I would like to pass on the word to Lesley to speak about the challenges of knowledge management and give us great tips.
Thank you so much, Ronnie, and I'm so pleased to be here with all of you today and sharing our knowledge and to partner with you guys, of course. So like Ronnie said, my name is Lesley Heizman. I'm our knowledge manager at Lucidworks. I'm also KCS version 6 practices certified, and I work with our product team as well. So today we're going to talk about the knowledge challenges in 2021. And I think if we've learned anything within this past year, it's been that transitioning our staff to remote work has proved very challenging at times. So I might be dating myself a little bit here, but one of my favorite movies is Office Space. And so I think there are a lot of parallels that we can draw here. But in the past year, many of us might have been stuck in work situations that might not have been ideal. We're working from home in new locations, perhaps in spaces that we hadn't anticipated before, maybe with our spouses or kids or pets as well. So it's made the past year super interesting. And we've seen a huge structural shift in the workplace and how we work among many industries that perhaps have not been used to working remotely in the past. So let's talk quickly about a survey that McKinsey did over the past year with business executives across multiple industries. They had reached out and asked them, for those that had had employees working from home previously, did they expect this to expand in the upcoming years? And as you can see here from our chart, many of them did. They said they had more staff working from home at this point, and that they expected for many of their staff to continue to work from home up to 1 to 2 days a week in the upcoming years, even if people planned on going back into the office when it's safe. So I think we can determine here that while going remote has been a challenge for many executives and their organizations, that remote work is here to stay and employees are asking for that, and that's what they want. So what does that mean for us as organizations as a whole as we continue to work remotely? If we go back to my favorite movie here, Office Space, many of our organizations here are putting ourselves into the position of Bob and Bob, if you remember from the movie, who were the productivity consultants. So we're faced with the challenge of how can we take our businesses remote, but still be extremely successful and productive. A lot of the companies that I talked to within the past year really needed to scale their support capabilities and extend their support capabilities both internally for their own staff as well as externally for their customers. And this is why a lot of companies are looking for knowledge management or digital workplace search solutions to help them with these efforts. So if you are fairly new to knowledge management, at Lucidworks, we're huge proponents of implementing knowledge-centered service as part of our knowledge management practices and following these methodologies. And if you haven't had a chance to dig into some of the content out there, the Consortium for Service Innovation has a great website called KCS Academy, where you can check out many of their materials. And they have a lot of members who have implemented knowledge-centered service and knowledge management practices at their organization. And for members that do implement these processes, they've seen dramatic improvements both in incident resolution for their teams, in training times, getting their teams up to speed on tasks or services that they need to provide, as well as improved customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction as well. And so as a result of following these knowledge management practices, they're seeing substantial savings both in operating costs as well as improvements in their level of service. And if you talk to some of the companies that implement these tools, they are seeing really staggering numbers: 70% improvement in time to proficiency for employees, 20 to 35% improved employee retention, I can't talk today, and 20 to 40% improvement in employee satisfaction. So this has really allowed them to expand, especially during these difficult times. So you might be saying, this all sounds great. What can I do to implement knowledge management at my organization? One of the big challenges here is that many organizations and employees are using various systems. So according to Forrester, data silos are keeping information from employees at their time of need. And you've probably felt this many times within your own career. So we recently polled a group of our customers and asked them, how many different systems are your employees typically using on a day-to-day basis? And we found that most employees reported that they use an average of 8 to 12 different systems during the course of their day. And this has only increased since we've been working remotely as we bring more tools on board. And you can see here from our list, often if I have a problem as an employee, I might have to go to a lot of different corporate intranet sites or SharePoint sites, perhaps HR systems. Then you have the whole gamut of marketing systems or CRM systems as well. So there's a lot of different systems that I'm using on a daily basis for my productivity and collaboration. So how do we solve this problem? This is what we're going to talk about today, the 3 challenges that we're experiencing. And while I would love to tell you that Fusion can solve all of your problems, and that's probably what I should do, I can't in good conscience say that as well. But if you implement knowledge management practices at your organization, as well as use great technology tools that can help support your staff and your employees and your customers, this is a big component in actually getting there to the goals and realizing those goals that you have. Implementing the right technology solution and using the right partners like we're demonstrating today can help make this easier on your staff. So let's talk about a few of these challenges. The first challenge is that in many of our organizations, data and experts are siloed. So here, if you remember Milton from the movie, he's down in the basement, he's cut off from the rest of the people, and he can't find the information that he needs. So often when we're talking to organizations, we find that people might not know where exactly to go to find what they need in the various systems that exist. Or even if they can find that information, they don't trust that it's up to date. Or sometimes they don't have access to the right systems either. So we see a lot of work where people are duplicating efforts when they're not aware that other teams are working on the same items. So let's talk about how we solve for this using Fusion or other digital workplace and knowledge management solutions. Here, if I'm an employee and I'm getting ready to plan out my vacation schedule for the year, I might want to go and search for when are our company-wide holidays that I need to be aware of for 2021. In the olden days, before these solutions were in place, I might not be sure where to go look. It could be in my HR portal, it could be in Google Drive or SharePoint, or it could be stored on an employee intranet somewhere. So I don't know where to look. So how we design for this using Fusion is we are big proponents of bringing all of those disparate content sources into one central location for your employees. So here we built this knowledge management solution, and we're just calling it Workplace, like you can see here. And we're pulling in content from various sources. So you can see here, I have one central search bar, but I can search Google Drive, I can search my people, resources, SharePoint, website, Alfresco, whatever data sources that you deem important to your organization, you can bring in your data via connectors to our system. And we have a common list of connectors that are available. If you go to lucidworks.com/connectors, you can see that full list. Some of our most popular connectors that are in use by our clients are SharePoint, ServiceNow, Google Drive, Jira, Confluence, Salesforce, or Zendesk, depending on what systems you're using. But we have a whole list of connectors that are available for you. One other thing I want to note here as well is the user interface can be totally customized to your organization's look and feel and branding guidelines that you designate. So here I've typed in holiday schedule here and I'm searching for the dates. You notice when I hit enter, it provides me with a list of files, but the 2021 holiday schedule appears at the very first selection here. And this is due to the signals and machine learning that the system is using when we index and look at this content. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. But here, I think we've all seen in the past when we've gone and searched a location that sometimes you're provided with thousands of results that may or may not be relevant to what you're actually looking for. So we really want to personalize the experience for the end user by showing them other items that have been popular to other searchers or have been helpful to other users similar to them. And this is really the machine learning component that's driving that. So this isn't just, a lame search result that's returning thousands of results that aren't relevant to you. Also, I think Ronny hit on this earlier, we want to talk about security as well when it comes to personalization. So here, whenever I'm coming in and searching as a user, you can control what files are appropriate for your users to see. So let's say, for example, the holiday schedule is a PDF and it's stored in SharePoint. I would only have access to the documents that are appropriate for me to see using those SharePoint access control lists. So here, for example, if you use single sign-on for SharePoint and your file is stored there, then the authentication will happen automatically through the system. So you don't need to be concerned about security for users that are searching for files or other documents. So let's say I found the holiday schedule as an employee, and now I want to look for perhaps some other team members that can fill in for me on my projects while I'm gone. Along with pulling in documents or other sources, you also have the opportunity to pull in subject matter experts or SMEs within your organization to make it easy for employees to connect with other subject matter experts as well. So often, we found within the past year, as people are working with teams and as more people are onboarding virtually, sometimes it can be hard to keep track of who the new subject matter experts at your company are. So here, for example, we're showing, I'm looking for experts in our solution Fusion, and I can see that Andy Tran is an expert. Perhaps I can get in touch with him and see if he can cover for me for some of my clients while I'm out. So you have the option to pull in experts by different data sources. You could use, let's say, an HR system that you want to pull in content from, or a different mode of finding your subject matter experts. Let's say you have like a particular individual that has solved more support cases on this topic than any other person, or perhaps a person who's very active on Teams or Slack for a certain content area. You could use those items to infer who has that expertise and provide your list here to your employees. So let's recap challenge 1. We really want to enable and encourage our employees to find information faster and to collaborate more effectively. So we do this by bringing all of those content sources into one location and providing proactive recommendations for their search that are customized to their user roles and helps them to be more productive. All right, so let's move on to challenge number 2, which is a lack of personalization. If you remember from the movie, Jennifer Aniston's character never had enough flair where she was working. So not to get too much into it, but there are a lot of software vendors as well who provide search or claim to do search, but often it's really not very good if we're super honest about it. So one tool which I actually love and I use every day, Confluence, for example, we use for our software development side of the house. The search on Confluence is not very great, even though I love the tool itself. So sometimes you can get those tons of results, but they're not highly relevant and they're not customized to my needs as a user. And this can be very frustrating for employees. And as well, it takes a training component to actually train employees how to properly search. So for people that are new to search or perhaps are not knowledgeable about advanced search techniques, this can be an issue. So how do we solve for this? Using Fusion, we really want to personalize the search effort for each individual user or role within your organization. So let's say here I come to the workplace portal, and as a user, I type in the term Fusion because I'm looking information about Fusion. When I start clicking on documents that I'm interested in, and let's say I like a document or I read it, or I open up a document and print it or share it with a friend, we're documenting all of these signals that the user is inputting. And then the next time they go back to the portal and they search again, we're using those signals to improve the relevancy of their results. So the system learns over time what specific user roles are looking for and really helps to improve the results. So each time they search, and as time goes on and we collect more data points, those search results are more relevant. This allows me as a user to find the information that I need more quickly and to be able to focus on those higher value activities, which is a huge component of knowledge management as well. So let's talk here about your personalization efforts. We work with a lot of different organizations, and we find typically that people want to personalize by role or perhaps by department or even by region. So we have a lot of larger clients that perhaps have specific areas of their organization, different headquarters or that type of thing, where they might want to enhance results based on the location that you're coming from. So this is an example of me as a marketing team member doing a search for Gartner. And when I search for Gartner as a marketing team member, I might be pulling up results like you can see here that are personalized for me regarding our recent results in the Magic Quadrant Insights report that Gartner released. However, if I'm an engineer and I come to the portal, since my role is different and the types of documents that I'm looking for are different, I might see documents related to a specific JIRA that I'm working for a project, or perhaps a proof of concept that I'm working on. So really the results can be personalized by role or department or region. not only are the search results personalized based on role, but other features can be personalized as well. So here as a user, I have the ability to bookmark any of my search result items that might be important to me, just like you do in your browser, let's say Chrome as well. I can also give it a thumbs up or like the article as well, and that sends signals into the system. And you also have the ability to come back to those bookmarks or to save searches that you complete often within your workplace portal, so you can come back and just easily reference those reports or searches. So we're finding a lot of clients that are telling us that this is really handy on a day-to-day basis. Let's say you do monthly or bi-weekly reporting and you come in and you're searching the same data repeatedly. This saves those users a lot of time in their day-to-day work. So let's recap challenge number 2. We really want the experiences that we're providing for employees to be personalized and proactive to try to anticipate their needs so we can produce that relevant content that's going to save them time. And what we're finding is that many organizations are getting more value from the data that they already have because they're able to find the information more easily and be aware of what other teams are working on. And then, of course, more knowledgeable employees can help to serve customers more efficiently as well. And they feel more empowered to do their jobs because they have the knowledge that they need and they can easily find it, which could be, a big part of increasing your employee morale. All right, so let's talk about the last challenge, and this is taking advantage of AI-powered search. To me, this is one of the most exciting features that Fusion and our knowledge management solutions has. But often implementing AI or machine learning can be frustrating or difficult in the past for teams because it took really specialized individuals with skill sets that they had to have a lot of knowledge around AI and machine learning, and often it can be expensive to hire those types of resources. So what we've really done is provided out-of-the-box configurable tools that will make this easier on your staff and to help save you implementation time. We always encourage using as much machine learning as possible within your solutions to help save the time from having to set up these manual business rules in your system. And if you do have a data science team that you're bringing or models that you're already working with, you can also bring those and deploy those in the system too, if you want to go that route. All right, so for those of us that might be a little new to signals, let's talk about how this specifically works and how that pertains to the system. Really with the signals, we're looking to get to know more about the user. So we really want to understand when the user is searching, what is their intent and what are they looking for so we can serve them more effectively. So in the system, when a user searches, we receive a request signal from the user at the time of their search. And then we also have a response signal, which documents all of the documents or results that are returned by Fusion to the user. We then track every interaction the user goes through, whether that would be, do they read it? Do they print a result? Do they share it? Do they like it or upvote it? And so we capture all of that information, and combining this for that user and across similar users like them, we're really able to improve the relevancy of the results. So why do these signals improve relevancy? We talked a little bit about this just a second ago, but really in trying to understand that intent, we want to understand why they are performing certain searches and then understand which queries are not performing well so we can identify and correct them and help people to find the information more effectively. So what we can do is actually rewrite the query before it hits the search engine based on our machine learning techniques, and then add a little more context to the query itself based on the knowledge that we've captured from users and other users similar to those users. So if we can identify similar items based on their behaviors, we don't necessarily have to know what is within a document or return result itself, but we can look to manually or automatically provide similar results to other users with those machine learning techniques. And what this allows us to do is really increase the relevance of those results across a broad spectrum of searches rather than writing individual rules. So here's some examples. We can look for synonyms of common searches. We can look for items that are misspelled. We can look for phrases that might be used in specific industries. So one example from the past year, obviously, is, coronavirus is known by many different synonyms. So you could search for coronavirus and you're going to get results as well that mention COVID-19. Or let's say you're in a medical industry, for example. As a user of a medical site, I might search on the term heart attack, but as a physician, I refer to that as myocardial infarction. So both of those searches will result in similar results for what the user is looking for, but tailored to their specific needs. And we can define those through machine learning automatically in the system. So here's some examples of some of the tools that we offer. And this is what I think is really cool about this solution is we have a dashboard of rules that are automatically generated by machine learning. So what the system does is it can make suggestions and say, okay, here are some things that we see people searching. Let's take payroll contributions, for example. Here is how you can improve that query and provide better results to those searches. And then you can choose whether you would like to approve those suggestions or not. So in this screen regarding searches, we have tail queries that are perhaps underperforming. The system will suggest those improved queries that yield those more relevant results, and then you can approve those. You can also use the same dashboard for misspelling corrections, phrase detections for common phrases, and synonyms as well. And then with this machine learning capability, you also have other options if you do want to manually promote or pin or boost or bury items. Here, for example, you can see, let's say you want to highlight an employee event or a specific document. You can promote or pin items to the top to bring attention to those items for employees that are doing that type of search or end users on your site as well. And then the other option is you can bury items. So perhaps there's something that you want to keep active, but you don't want to be coming to the top of the list. So perhaps the event has already occurred, or you just don't want it coming up to the top of your results. You can go in and manually bury items as well, like you can see here down at the bottom. So let's recap the third challenge. Obviously, taking advantage of machine learning can be challenging. So really what we want to offer to you is to take advantage of the out-of-the-box offerings here. You can pin, boost, you can bury or block items, and use our visual rules editor to correct those underperforming queries to provide better results. And remember, you can use these pre-built models that we've already provided, or if you do have a team and you want to bring your own data science models, you can do that as well and plug in your own models that you're using. So we've seen the adoption of Fusion and our knowledge management solutions at hundreds of companies that really are looking to create that hyper-personalized workspace for their employees. And what they want to do is to give them that consumer-like experience that we're all used to from using other systems. We're finding that they use this for contextual, personalized discovery of insights that are relevant to their role. And then really this helps them to take advantage of some of that cross-functional adoption of applied machine learning that perhaps we haven't been able to do in the past. And overall, we see increased engagement, collaboration, and retention of those employees. So this is all part of our offerings in what we call the Connected Experience Cloud. And of course, you can talk to Xenit as well if you're interested in learning further about this. So on the left-hand side of the screen here, you can see that we're using that system generated and application generated data to capture and provide signals across the spectrum of all of your applications. And then we're using that applied machine learning to help us understand the intent of users. And we aim to provide this context across multiple solutions, whether that would be on your website, product discovery or documentation discovery, or internally for your own teams regarding knowledge management and customer service as well. And again, if you are interested, continue to stay on and you'll see the demo here shortly. Let me talk just briefly about some of our clients. So here are just a few of the organizations that are currently using Lucidworks Fusion for their knowledge management solution. We do have 30 of the US Fortune 100 that use our solutions as well. And then just briefly, a couple of customers that I want to highlight. So you might be familiar with the SAS Institute. They are actually based in North Carolina, and they use our Fusion and knowledge management solutions to power their internal intranet search. They have found they've improved their employee productivity and time to resolution for their service requests by empowering their knowledge workers with a unified search solution that grants access to over 9 million documents in their knowledge base. And they live in various siloed locations. A second great example is the team at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, who uses Fusion to power their firm-wide enterprise search application. It leverages machine learning models to deliver the most relevant employee and client insights as well, including SAP, Workday, and Salesforce. And by providing employees with a 360-degree view of people and companies within Fusion, they've been able to decrease their call center times and increase the productivity of their knowledge workers. So I am going to hand it over to Ronny at this point to provide the demo. And thank you so much again for having me as your guest, as always.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Lesley. As said before, my name is Ronny. I am a computer engineer at Xenit. At Xenit, our main focus is enterprise content management with a main focus on alfresco. With enterprise content management, there is also the important aspect of search. In this demo, I will show you the capabilities of Fusion and how it can alleviate search for your enterprise. Straight away, we see that Fusion is presenting me with some documents and results from its index. For instance, at the top, we see a first result from a web page from our own Xenit website. You can also, for instance, see an alfresco document and also see a SharePoint document. At the top of my search interface, I can see my different data silos. For instance, I can see that I have 1,000 documents indexed, 500 from which there are from alfresco, and the rest is divided between the Xenit website and SharePoint. You can also click these documents to only view the documents from that data silo. So after authentication, I go back to every web page on our Xenit website. These filters are also adjustable. Now, moving over to the overview of this page, at the left-hand side, we have some filters, also known as facets. With these facets, I can filter the results that are returned by Fusion. For instance, when I'm only interested in PDF files, and for instance, say the MS Word files, I can filter my results, and I can see that there are some results coming from our website, coming from alfresco, and from SharePoint. These filters are clickable, and I can remove them whichever I like. Now, for an overview of the main data that is indexed in our Fusion, we also made a small dashboard that is Fusion is really quickly able to create. You can see over here how our data is divided. who created the data, and at what dates they were created. Moving over to the main search interface, we have the option to limit our results to a certain amount per page, sort by its name, by type, or whatever you would like. Now I'm going to use the search application for its main purpose, which is, of course, doing a search. I am an engineer, and I heard that IBM is doing something interesting with blockchain. So I will type the first words of that, and I can see that Fusion is already working for me. I only typed the first half of the second word, and it already is suggesting me the term blockchain. I will now finish this search, and I can see the results from Fusion. I can see that Fusion found 89 documents in Alfresco, 50 in SharePoint, and 2 on our website. What I can immediately see is a potential problem. I can see in SharePoint, there is a document with the exact name as in Alfresco. What Fusion now has done is put the Alfresco document on top because it was modified on a later date than the SharePoint document. Now, in my search application, when you click on the title of a document, you will be redirected to the document detail page. The detail page is mainly focused about one document. It shows you the title, some metadata of the document, and a small snippet of its content. From here on, I am one click away to actually view it in Alfresco. Then after I am authenticated against Alfresco, I can see my document at first glance. So for instance, after my search, I can indeed see it's a document about blockchain coming from IBM. And I can also see an expert on this topic named Axel Bausch. Going back to my document detail page, I can see that Fusion is also doing some other interesting things for me. At the left-hand side of the document detail page, I can see that it's suggesting similar documents for me. The Fusion engine is actually looking at all the other documents and finding similarities between the title, the content, and the metadata. For instance, we see that we here also find the document from SharePoint and some other files about IBM. On the right-hand side, I use the more advanced machine learning feature from Fusion, which is actually capable of extracting important entities from the content of your document. This document was based on an open NLP model, which was able to extract companies and persons from the content of my document. What you can see here is that it indeed extracted the company IBM, and at the person field, we also see the name we saw in the document earlier, Axel Bausch, which was automatically extracted. The interesting thing about this is that I can also click these entities. And when I click these, Fusion will output all the documents in which the same entity was also extracted. So over here, it actually suggested me a search term, and I can see IBM documents or other documents containing the term IBM or company IBM. Let's now, for instance, say that I am interested in those kind of documents. I will do the same search again. And now, because I want to keep updated on all new documents that arrive in Fusion, I can save the search for later. For instance, I will now call this search IBM blockchain and save it. Now going back to the normal overview, I can get my search back one click away, and the search will be executed automatically. Now say that I want to bookmark this document for later, the SharePoint document, because maybe I want to remove it because it's a duplicate. I can find it in my saved bookmarks. Now also one click away, and I'm also viewing my document in SharePoint. Going back to the main overview of the website. As you all might know, with large enterprises, there is the important question of access control. In my demo, I would like to show you some things we did with our Alfresco connector to include this access control automatically into Fusion. I will now do a confidential search that I saved earlier, containing the search term money transfer and an exact match on that. We can see there are some documents in Alfresco 7 and some in SharePoint. These documents are highly confidential, and I configured that only administrators should be able to see them. Now moving on to my other user employee accounts. I can see that this account was configured to only have access to Alfresco. When I now do the identical search of money transfer, I actually get no results for my search query. The interesting thing is that with our connector, we are actually pulling the access control rules from Alfresco into Fusion. This means that you only need to configure the access control in Alfresco and that it will be mimicked in Fusion with real-time updates. So anything happening related to access control in Alfresco does not need to be done into Fusion. Moving back to my admin account. I would like to show you one option of searching your own websites. For instance, I know that Xenit has a lot of interesting projects about content migration. I can start with a search term on content, and then I would like to get all variations on the word migration. So here I will use a wildcard search, meaning that I want to match on all words that start with these 4 letters. So when I, for instance, execute this query, I immediately see some web pages from our website, and the query highlighting shows me that there was actually a match on content migration, on migrate, and for instance, also on the word migrated. In the search bar, there's also more advanced options available. You can search on metadata or use the negated search or other features that are also similar to the Google search bar. Now, finally, to conclude my demo, I would like to say that the real power of Fusion comes in when you actually add a lot of data sources, allowing you to search over your whole enterprise and creating you a personalized search interface for your own employees that will actually learn and grow over time. With that final thought, I would like to conclude the demo and give the word back to Ronny.
Great, Ronny. Thank you very much for sharing that. I know you enjoyed building it, and it just it comes off the screen when you speak about it. And I think for us, it's actually spectacular. After searching so many years in Alfresco, is that we can search in multiple sources as well in Alfresco, of course, but in SharePoint, and SharePoint is document collaboration. It's a standard. Alfresco is more the long-term retention, the more system of record application. It works together, and it works together well. And we unite it, we fuse it thanks to Fusion. I think you covered the 3 challenges that Lesley talked about. We showed that we can bring together information sources. It won't all be consolidated as information. There will be different sources. You have to federate them, and Fusion is the way to bring them together, to link the silos together to one information pool for enterprises. Employees need help. This is about personalization. I think the first form of personalization is respecting access control. And you pointed it out. What we do is with our connector, we duplicate the access control of Alfresco into Fusion, which means that you don't have to reset access control. You take it from the source. And the same goes for SharePoint. Again, there we respect the access control. access control is a form of personalization because it's not just to hide information from you, but not to confront you with information that is not relevant for you. Of course, what we could show is that if you use the system for some time, it will learn in your behavior. It learns what you search for. It learns what your peers are searching for, and it will adapt the relevance to what you find. So I guess you illustrated that as well, because you showed as well that you could favorize a document, or you could even upvote it. You didn't do that in the interface, but it's there and it's possible, and it will be taken into account. The third challenge, machine learning. Of course, we can add a lot of value by machine learning. Lesley showed rules that are actually extracted by Fusion, how you configure them. Ranik showed how we used OpenNLP to extract, as you saw on the results page, with I think Alex Rausch being an expert on blockchain. That name was actually automatically extracted, not added in a static way as metadata, but we just extracted that because it is the entity person. We extracted person entities when we ingested the documents into the demo system. So thank you for setting that up, Ranik. Not just the persons, but also the organizations that you could link upon. So I think it's a pretty good overview on the three challenges that we had with the demo. And of course, there's Alfresco. We're seeing it. Alfresco is in the game somewhere. But there's SharePoint, and there's a lot of other systems that we connect. And it was shown on a website, but it can be on Confluence. It can be on other old systems. Fine. Okay. I think that's the recap. And if there are some questions, answers, we'll see, but questions. Klaus, are you moderating those? Do we have questions?
Yes, I believe now the demo is over, we can open the floor for some Q&A. I know Daniela was also monitoring the chat room very closely. So let's see if we have any questions that we can direct to the panel.
Yes, Klaus, I have a couple of questions here. So the first one, I think, is for both Lesley and Ronny that can address this question. So what is the single most influential success factor in delivering successful knowledge management transformation project? And please, Lesley or Ronny, if you would like to address this one.
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. I would say probably two things that I think about personally. And one of them is really to enable and encourage a knowledge sharing culture. I think a lot of the times within an organization, sometimes we can be afraid to share the knowledge that we have because we feel like maybe they might not need me anymore if I share what knowledge I have, or that's what allows me to be specialized in my job. So I think really kind of encouraging that amongst your company culture is important. And then I would say, secondly, really understanding what is important to your leaders within your organization. What metrics are they tracking? What are their plans for working with customers? And really aligning your knowledge management goals to what their outcomes should be, so you can make sure that you are meeting their needs and aligning with your higher level strategic goals overall.
Okay, I could add one to that, only just to amplify the message that Lesley is giving, of course. One of the things that really helps to create chaos in enterprise, to create order and to avoid chaos in enterprise search, is to add a model of your documents. In Alfresco, it's a document model, it's types, it's categories, but in SharePoint, you have properties, you have document types. In many systems, you can apply some kind of model. Very often it's known as a taxonomy. So we speak about a tree of document types and subtypes or information types. Documents are just one piece of form of information, but you create that model, and that model becomes a consistent model for all the employees. So it has to be simple and very relevant. I can give you an example. The simplest model we have a few great insurance companies as a customer, and there we also do search, but then on Alfresco, if you already have the base concepts of a customer, a contract, and a claim, you already have a lot of keys to find information and to slice and dice. It's not so simple. I'm just giving that as an illustration, but creating that common model in all the information we have creates a path and keys for people to find it back. Machine learning will do a lot of magic, but you can help it a lot with a common model.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Lesley and Ronny. I have a second question here. What are the options for deploying knowledge management solution, utilizing Fusion and Lucidworks knowledge management?
The options? Well, okay, we could start. I think it's a matter of looking for a quick win. If you look at, for instance, if you, I'm talking about Alfresco here, but it could be open text, it can be Documentum, any system. There's a lot of information that is already classified with metadata. If you run that into Fusion, Fusion will learn about important filters, important concepts, because you start from a structured source. Then you can go down or up or cross to other sources of information with less structure and model in. But because Fusion has learned, it will allow to create more order. So I think it's you can do quick wins by starting with information with some more structure. And of course, looking on the other hand on the needs of the organization is to address the most important needs first. Technologically, you can scale it as you like. You add sources, you make it grow. Lesley talked about 10 million documents, but we have customers with 100 million documents. Then in Solar, but that is the core of Fusion. It's the same core technology in. So you can choose where the most pressing issues are. You can scale it as you like.
Thank you. And last but not least, if you do want to bring your own data science models, how is this done?
I can maybe answer that question, if that's all right. The Fusion is mainly built up in two phases. First, when ingesting your data, you have the option of your index pipeline. This index pipeline is actually configurable how you want. So it's more like a chronological steps. And in the steps, you have a machine learning option where you can actually deploy your own algorithms or own data models to alleviate your data that will then be indexed and searchable in Fusion.
Cool, thank you. I don't have any other question here in the chat unless someone wants to address another one.
I think I may have seen that someone had their hand up earlier. I think I may have seen Natalie put her hand up, but she's no longer in the chat. So I think we're going to leave it there for today. But first off, let me just say thank you to everyone who attended the event today. We really appreciate you being part of this presentation. And then also special thanks, of course, to all of the speakers and persons who helped behind the scenes. For those of you who would like more information, please feel free to send us an email at sales@xenit.eu. We're going to make this demo, of course, available online. So to request access, you can simply send us an email to schedule some time. So again, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Goodbye.